your devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is always completely destroyed. Loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
Jai. So, we are going through Srimad Bhagavatam. Pratik, you're just hopping in with us here, but we've been studying now for over a year, and we've gotten through the first canto together. But the good news about Srimad Bhagavatam is it develops very slowly, and also because we go translation by translation and purport by purport, it moves even more slowly for us. But it really allows us to meditate deeply on what we've learned and actually apply what we've learned and really embody it. So we are in the first chapter of the second canto, so we did the whole first canto. But the lucky thing is that the Bhagavatam doesn't really start until now. The whole first canto is the setting of the scene of the Bhagavatam and all the events that took place that allowed for the Bhagavatam to have its transmission received in this world through the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. And so now Shukadeva Goswami actually just started speaking the Bhagavatam. And it was in response to two questions of Maharaj Parikshit. And Maharaj Parikshit, he had asked, what is the duty for all persons at all places and at all times? And what is the duty especially for one who's about to die? And Shukadeva Goswami, he was very pleased with that because, and he glorified that this question, because this is actually what's beneficial for people to hear. Because no one is really, we don't really consider all these things. We consider our duty to be our temporary arrangements here. Oh, what's my wife need? What's my son need? What's my, what are the financial needs around me? Or what are, and all these considerations must be there. You must maintain your life. But really, though, what is the human need? What is the need of all persons, all places, and all times? It's almost never being looked at. What's the actual real dharma of the living entity? And instead of the temporary dharmas and then even worse, to maintain one's life, which has to happen, you have to maintain your life. But it doesn't take that much to maintain the life. The life can be maintained pretty basically. You might have to give 40 hours a week in maintaining one's life, maybe a little more. In today's climate, they're pushing it. They want to, and then you used to be able to retire at 60, and then at 62, and then at 67, and then it'll be 70 soon, and then next thing you know, they'll never let you retire, And so, but why? Because they're pushing away, the real dharma and their the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal dharma, which is what Hinduism is supposed to mean. Hindu is a derogatory term. Like, oh, those people live over on the other side of the Sindhu River. So the Hindus. So Hinduism, real Hinduism, is called Sanatana Dharma. But what is that eternal dharma? So Shukadeva Goswami is reminding us. And so what's the duty for all persons, all places, and all times? Do you know what he said? So he said 3 things. Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam of the Supreme Lord. This is the only duty for all persons at all places and at all times. Even in the midst of everything else we're doing, that should be our focus. And at the very least, we should try to remember the Lord when working. We can chant the Lord's name. We do. We send our boy Madhav off every morning. He sings with us in the morning. Maybe you heard us this morning singing. Did you hear us this morning?
Oh yeah, at 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30. You heard us singing. Yeah. So we were all singing together, and so he sings, and then he's off to work. And at work, he's trying to meditate on the Lord to the best of his ability, and that's actually good for him right now. But this is the eternal instruction that we should always remember the Lord, because everything in life is dependent on, and the underlying fabric of reality is God, actually. And so, but to forget that is, in this case, adharmic. It's not proper to not understand what is actually happening in reality. So that always must happen. To hear about the Lord, to then yourself glorify the Lord, share the glories of the Lord, and in this way you'll remember the Lord. Actually, the only rule is to remember the Lord. But we can't do it without first hearing about the Lord and then actually then beginning to share what we've learned. Knowledge that you just hear and you take and you don't share, it goes away. But knowledge that you hear and it goes in and then you begin to share it with others, that's why they say the best way to learn something is to teach something. Yeah. So this is what Shukadeva Goswami is saying. And so then from there, he starts instructing Maharaj Parikshit how to prepare himself. And he was glorifying that you're fortunate because Maharaj Parikshit, he was cursed to die in 7 days. So that's why he asked this question. It was very relevant to him. I'm about to die, and we're actually all about to die. We might not have 7 days, but in the span of eternity, 70 years is the snap of a fingers. It's very quick, and it'll just creep up on you. So if we don't take this time to hear about the Lord, to ourselves then share the glories that we've heard, and then remember the Lord, it said we've wasted the whole life. And we don't know when we'll get this opportunity again. As if we look at all the species of life, only few get the human form of life. And actually, if the human form of life isn't used for pursuing the Sanatan Dharma, the eternal Dharma of the soul, what happens is the consciousness degrades, and then it must go down again into animal life. And animals, they lose all ability to evaluate what is the deeper meaning of life. That's for the human being. Only the human being can approach this. But if the human being doesn't do it, then
Reverse.
Yes, they go back, and then it takes a very long time to get back up again. There may be some circumstance the Lord favors, depending on what they've done. But to even hear even one verse of the Bhagavatam in one's life is, said it's so potent that it's almost guaranteed you'll leave off. You'll go get to hear a second verse in your next life, even though you may not make so much advancement. But still, to not go down, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, even a little advancement on this path of even karma yoga saves one from the greatest type of fear, which is traversing and going down for millions of years of wasted experience in samsara, animal life, and getting eaten by this animal and then going back and then getting eaten again. And that's how they just do it over and over again. But we're trying to fulfill the human form of life here by reading the Bhagavatam, hearing it, hearing it from our teachers especially. That's the main process. Reading it is the great supplement, but luckily we have the purports of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the founder of ISKCON. So we'll read through that as well, and we'll kind of try to hear his voice in our understanding of the Bhagavatam. And so where we're at is Shukadeva Goswami, he tells Maharaj Parikshit, okay, this is what you do. Especially for one who's about to die, they should leave their family life behind. Because in family life we get very distracted with, now the college, and now the sports, and now the this, the that, and and the wife's needs, and this thing, and now relatives' needs, and this, and next thing you know, you're jumping through all the hoops and things like that, and then you no time for hearing and glorifying and remembering the Lord. So he says, leaving your one must leave one's family behind to go find a proper seat, an asana, and sanctify yourself and sanctify it, and begin for meditation. And then in meditation, one has to control the mind through the breathing process called pranayama. This is the beginning, and chant the sacred mantra Om, the pranav mantra, which contains. Now this is very beginning level meditation. The whole Bhagavatam is going to unfold, but he's taking us from very step one to how to, the highest thing is actually Sri Krishna and his devotees and pastimes in Vrindavan. But in order to get to that place, we have to start from where we're at. We're here in this material world. We have no realization of Krishna, practically. No realization of his eternal abode and activities there. And so we really can't formulate, what kind of goal we can have. So, but this is the base way to understand God is the transcendental seed Om. This is a very naturally occurring mantra that everything is actually vibrating in this universe at a very subtle level, and this mantra is to approach and encapsulate the impersonal aspect of God. So before we can look to the sun, you have to be enlightened by the energy of the sun, the sunlight. So the sunlight has given us light by which it's by the light that the sun emanates that we can look and see the sun, actually. So in order to approach the Supreme God, we have to then understand how his energies are enlivening us and impacting us. So this is what's happening here. So he's giving now the meditation on how to see the Lord in the creation that we can see, and how to meditate on the Lord based on our already experienced concepts that we've already experienced in this world. Things that every human being has experienced, like the light of the sun, the moon, and so on. So that description's happening right now, and that's exactly where we're at. And we haven't gone that far, so don't worry. You're pretty caught up. I just got you to catch up in like 15 minutes. So we're pretty caught up and ready to understand more deeply. Now, before we begin and approach the Shastra, we'll chant our some pranam mantras that Srila Prabhupada he chanted. So we can chant together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitang Yena Bhutale Svayang Rupa Kadamayang Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupang Sagrajatang Sahagana Raghunath Anvitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitang Sabadutang Parijana Sahitang Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. So, first and foremost, I'd like to offer my deep respects and my obeisances, my heart, unto the gurus in my life, from which only by their mercy I am able to share anything at all. I'd like to then offer my obeisances unto the entire lineage of gurus who have been given this divine empowerment that we're and divine wisdom that we're about to approach down to us, that we can also appreciate and experience the mercy of the Lord. And then finally, I'd like to offer my obeisances to all of my spiritual brothers and sisters, especially Patik and Parth, who's with us here. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, like yourselves, you can fulfill everyone's desires. And he said you're just like kalpavrikshas, or desire trees. And you know, the spiritual association, they're full of compassion for the fallen souls of the world, and they're always trying to help. So we help each other, and then especially we help those who are definitely in need, and actually everyone's in need. We can start with our close circles, our family, our relatives, and so on, and then we can expand out and see how far we can reach and help others. This is what Vaishnavas do. So, one way we can help each other is stay charged every day and engaged in Bhagavat Shravan, hearing the Bhagavatam. So, we ended last time talking about, in this meditation, if we remember, Shukadeva Goswami started with the understanding of the universe at the time. It's still the understanding of the universe, but now we have been covered over by some academic presentations of the universe. I was actually just seeing, remember we had a kind of controversial conversation last time. We're like, wait a second, the Bhagavatam is describing the universe like this, but this scientist, the NASA describes it like this, and so on. And I had to tell Divyanshu, I was like, yeah, you're going to have to put that to the side to approach the Bhagavatam and understand that you almost certainly have been duped. And I was actually just seeing, interestingly enough, I saw Nrsimha's father, who's a sannyasi. He was in Prabhupada, and he was very, how do you say, he was convinced that they lied about going to the moon. He was very convinced about this. And but actually, just recently, Elon Musk, he was talking about what they'd need to go to the moon and things like that. And the things that he said he needed for he's running SpaceX and so on. And so, but it completely contradicts, everything that's been said. And he was saying, just see, like it's proof, of Srila Prabhupada, his convictions. So anyhow, there's lots of proofs out there that in many ways, in science, in medicine, in so many ways, we're being duped, and we're being shown something that's for someone's agenda, and it's not based on the absolute truth. So maybe you've even seen in your work field and things like that many times things get misrepresented for the sake of money, power, influence, so many things like that. You're also working in the sciences. He's an electrical engineer, PhD student, and he's actually doing some cutting-edge, groundbreaking work, and him and his professor are working on creating very small antennas that will allow for enhanced technological advances. It's very, cutting-edge, groundbreaking work, actually, that they're doing. But yeah, if you pay attention in your field long enough, you'll see, wait a second, maybe there's, who is using these antennae, why, or what are they saying, and things don't always add up. And because we are under a curtain of illusion in this whole material world, actually imposed on us by God himself, because when we choose to turn our consciousness away from God, he says, okay, I'm actually everywhere, but if you want to choose to turn your consciousness away from me, I am the actual reality, then fine. You can have the illusion of reality. And that's what we're here. And so then everyone in the illusion is actually deceiving one another and perpetuating further this illusion of ignorance in this world. This is called Maya. And so all of the agents of the illusion, we're all agents of the illusion. So we tell our relatives, no, you have to focus on your material education, and you have to focus on your material job, and you have to focus on these things. And we further perpetuate the illusion and don't tell them what Shukadeva Goswami was saying. No, you actually see the reality of God. You should hear about God. You should glorify God. You should remember God and understand God's the fabric of reality, and we should turn back to God. And if we do that, then we can actually start to understand reality. We still do the jobs. We still maintain our family members. We still maintain our homes and finances and so many things. but we do it for a higher purpose. And we do it on the basis of reality and not on the basis of perpetuating the illusions of society, what our relatives, our cultural traditions and so on. These aren't the actual most important thing. So, here we are. We're trying now to understand how to meditate. So now he's telling us how to see there's 14 planetary systems. We're in the middle on the Bhumandala. Yeah, Bhuloka. The whole universe is said to be like an egg. And going up and down in the universe, there's planetary levels and systems. And we're in the middle planetary system. And this plane is said to be very, very wide. We're told that our Earth is like this, and only these 7 continents exist, and so on. That's not true, actually. What it is, and actually we get a clue we can look at the United Nations map, because they actually show us what we actually are, and they do it on purpose because they like to mess with us. But anyhow, we're on a little bubble of islands here in the Bhumandala, and it's surrounded by mountainous walls. They kind of fold in the actual reality and say, yes, we're on a ball, and at the bottom of the ball is a giant thing of ice. And we don't agree, all countries don't agree on anything in the world, but you know that the one thing they all do agree on? You cannot go to Antarctica. No one's allowed. We all agree, no one's allowed, even though the Nazis had all kinds of stuff there. I mean, all the big governments, they all have projects there, but no one else is allowed. No citizen should ever see it. It's banned, and if you can go, you have to get special permission, and you can only go where they say you can go, and like that. Why? Because if you go over those mountains, there is a whole vast world in which it expands much further. There's more advanced beings. There's all kinds of really incredible parts of reality there. So anyway, that's not necessarily the subject matter, but there is much more to the world than we see. But why am I talking about this? Because it's describing this world and how to see it and the different planetary systems. And this was all common knowledge back then. This was all common knowledge. Everyone knew this, actually. But today, in Kali Yuga, the more we progress in ignorance, because it's much easier to contain farm animals that have a fence. It's much easier to contain us, you could say lower class workers in society if we have a psychological fence. Oh no, this is it. This is the world as we know it. There's no more. And so we are all contained. And this is our bubble. And this is all we're allowed to know. And this is what the propaganda we get in school and academics and so many things. So anyhow, but this common knowledge that was known, the different planetary systems, and how to see each one as actually on the body part, as a body part of the Lord. And this allows us, is training us to see the personality underlying all of reality. There is a personality behind reality. It's not just some cosmic energy. And this could actually be easily inferred, So who helped shape your personality in your life? Just name some people. Your parents. And
friends, parents, families,
teachers. Yeah, even the society at whole, the culture you grew up in, right? So many personalities helped shape your personality. So who shaped all their personalities? The other personalities.
Other persons.
Yeah. So if we take that back, this personality shapes this personality. So what's that mean? In the beginning, who's the first personality in this world? Who shaped their personality?
Creator.
Yes, it must be an independent personality. It means there must be that's God. There must be an independent personality who is not dependent on other personalities. So, right there, just by that simple little jump of logic, it can be inferred. There must be a God. But people, you're both engineers in the material education. They're convinced, no, consciousness comes from matter. There's no evidence of ever any, it's unscientific. Look, give me one observation, one example of matter bringing forth consciousness. There's not one. There's nothing. Matter is dead. It doesn't, it has no consciousness. But, matter does come from other matter, but consciousness never comes from matter. It's not like that. That's why Prabhupada, he engaged his scientist disciple. Why am I forgetting his name? You remember? Swarup Damodar. And he said, he wrote the book, Life Comes from Life. And this is actually proving this fact that life comes from life, it proves that there must be an independent life, that's giving life to everything else, an independent personality. So the whole goal of the Bhagavatam is to bring us closer to that personality of God and to make us aware of the potentialities for relationship, of how we can be in relation to God. And so now we're starting at the very most base level. Look at everything around you. Look at the universe around you and the world around you. Just see how this is connected to God. Just use your imagination. Because in the beginning, that's all we can really use. That's all our facilities we can use. So he's saying, the last verse was, the knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name of Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and outer space is the depression of his navel. So in this way, when we see things, when we see the luminary planets, when we see outer space at night and so on, we can meditate and begin to, meditate, oh look, this is actually also connected to the Lord's body. And in this way, we can get a conception of the Lord's personality. And then he says, the chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. That's all the stars that we can see, and all the planets, the grahas, that we can see. His neck is the Mahar planets. His mouth is the Janas planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. These are all described in the Vedas. And it was common knowledge to the people 5,500 years ago. It's not common knowledge now, but we're trying to understand again. And so because in order to follow this, we have to even understand. So the topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1,000 heads. So this is describing the Virat Rupa.
Satyaloka is on the top.
Yes, Satyaloka is the topmost, and is said to be the head of the one who has thousands of heads. And this is if you read Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter, Krishna reveals this form to Arjuna. It's Virat Rupa with thousands of heads, thousands of arms, and so on. And actually, one of the realizations that Arjuna has is that he was, before it was like us versus them, but actually what the realization he had was, no, everyone here on this battlefield is actually only you, Krishna. You're the actual one behind all of this. You're the personality, and this is the realization that we're seeing. You're Krishna showing up like this. You're Krishna everything. Yeah, is like this. So this is what Shukadeva Goswami is trying to teach us. So we will now read the next verse. We call in response. Indradayo bahava ahur ushraha. Indradayo bahava ahur ushraha. Karno dishashrotram amushya shabdaha. Na satya dasro paramasya nase. Kranosya gando mukam agnya idaha. Indra Adaya, the demigods headed by the heavenly king Indra. Bahava, arms. Ahu are called. Ushraha, the demigods. Karno, the ears. Dishaha, the four directions. Shrotram, the sense of hearing. Amushya, of the Lord. Shabdaha, sound. Nasatya Dashro, the demigods known as the Ashwini Kumaras. Paramasya, of the Supreme. Nase, nostrils. Granaha, the sense of smell. Asya, of him. Gandaha, fragrance. Mukham, the mouth. Agni, fire. Idaha, blazing. His arms of the translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. I don't know if I chant it. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. So really a great fortune that we get to read Srila Prabhupada's purports. What a merciful personality. So, his arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears, and physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the 2 Ashwini Kumaras, and material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. So, purport. The description of the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead made in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is further explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The description in the Bhagavad Gita 11:30 runs as follows. O Vishnu, I see you, devouring all people in your blazing mouths and covering all the universe by your immeasurable rays. Scorching the worlds, you are manifest. Excuse me. In that way, Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study. We were just talking about this yesterday. It's the postgraduate study for the student of the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them are the science of Krishna, the absolute truth. And so they are interdependent. The conception of the Virat Purusha, or the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, is said to include all the dominating demigods as well as the dominated living beings. Even the minutest part of a living being is controlled by the empowered agency of the Lord. Since the demigods are included in the gigantic form of the Lord, worship of the Lord, whether in his gigantic material conception or in his eternal transcendental form as Lord Sri Krishna, also appeases the demigods in all other parts and parcels, as much as watering the root of a tree distributes energy to all other of the tree's other parts. This is actually really important. We should understand. Why is he describing it? Well, this is because people, they tend to, we have this separated conception. Even in India it's very prominent. This group worships Shiva. This group worships Devi. This group worships this. But what's being shown here is that all of these different aspects are all part of the total Supreme Lord, actually. We shouldn't isolate the one part and think this is the whole. And this is what many are doing. But we should have the conception of understanding what this really the whole looks like. And what's described as the whole by the Vedas. And even by the supplements revealed by Veda Vyas, and the amazing revelations of Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and so on. And also we have to understand, for us now, we're like, who's Indra? What the heck is, Varuna and this and that, right in here Indra is mentioned. What are the Ashwini Kumars? But actually, if we look in all the ancient cultures, whether it's Greek or Roman, they actually acknowledged all these personalities. Indra was Zeus, or Jupiter in the Roman, and so on. And all these personalities had their counterpart in the modern pantheons. In the Celtic pantheons, they had similar, the god of this, and the Nordic as well. Everyone had different understandings of the demigods. It's only now that we don't understand the personalities behind reality. Now we've lost that understanding. So now we see the sun, and it's just like a big ball of gas. Well, what's lighting the gas? Who is, just spontaneous, just shut up, don't ask that question. If you just ask why a few times to any material scientist with this material conception, you realize and they realize they don't know anything at all. Mm-hmm. And well, why does that happen? Okay, well, why does that happen? And then eventually they'll just have to, get angry at you or realize oh no, I don't know. We don't know anything. And then yes, now you get it. So very good. I was hearing, there was, I don't know the story that well, so maybe I shouldn't speak on it. But there was an oracle, I forget, there was some mystical thing that the Greeks used to worship called the oracle at Delphi or something like this. And it would make predictions, and it was never wrong, and they would like this. And That's how Socrates became prominent, because the oracle said that the Socrates is the wisest among men. But Socrates, he was, how could this be? I'm like a great fool. I know I'm a fool. Like I don't have any knowledge at all of anything. How could I be the wisest among men? And so, he set out to prove how. But the oracle, they accept the oracle is always right. Why? And and so Socrates, he came to the conclusion, meaning that all the other men must know nothing, because I also know nothing. And if I'm the wisest among men, then all others must know absolutely nothing. So he went out debating and trying to prove and see. And it became well known that amongst the Greeks, he was the wisest among men. But he was wise because he knew that he knew nothing, which is... So this is if only the great leaders of the world understood how little they know, how much more humble, and everything would be less chaotic due to that. But it's all part of the Lord's nice program here. But we should understand, though, in the description of the demigods, how everything is like, it's considered to like all the different parts of the tree. Indra's, this twig over here, and this one's this leaf over here, and like this. But it's all part of a greater whole. And this is, and so this is being revealed to us right now. So Prabhupada's saying, expanding. Consequently, for a materialist also, worship of the universal gigantic form of the Lord leads one to the right path. One need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for fulfillment of different desires. The real entity is the Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him only. So a lot of times, especially in India, that people, because they see the separate vision, they're like, all right, well, it's Ganesh Puja today, I'll worship Ganesh. All right, we got to cover this demigod over here. Like, oh my God, my business is going to fail. I got to worship Kubera. And next thing you know, Lakshmi, this one. And so now they're trying to manipulate all the demigods. And like, no, you give me this one and you give me this one. And the Vedas are completely, say this is foolish. Even Krishna in Bhagavad Gita famously says, those who worship the demigods, that they're also worshiping me, but they do so in a wrong way. And so that's why they're parts of the Lord, but you can just approach that original personality, and you don't have to, okay, well, Lakshmi needs this on this day, and Indra needs this on this day, and so on. Shiva needs this on this day, and so on. There's one God. He's, you should approach him and understand this. So like this. So all the different... one need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for fulfillment of different desires. The real entity is the Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him only. So we should understand this and become devotees of that one God. See, the Western actually religions, they got that. They got that point, and they're all they fight with each other about how to worship the one God, but they got it, that there's one God, and only focus. In the Vedas, and coming out of India, that's also understood. That's where all of the other religions are spanning for, but the society at large did not fully get it. So they're here and there, and this one and that one and this one, and competing and clashing, and so,
it's
but
selfishness actually. The human, they always need something, right? So they make it's like a shop.
Yes. Yes, this divine being gives this one, and this divine being,
Exactly.
and whatever they desire, that's the one that, yes, we like this one. Shiva gives anything that you desire, so we like this one. Or Devi gives this thing that you desire. I mean, it's so like that. Yeah, it's like a Mystic Mall or something, and they're shopping. So, but it's a good way. Oh, I want to go to the Indra store over here. So,
Yeah.
yes, let me get my, let me do puja and get my Indra currency, and yes, Indra, please give me a powerful sex life, and like this, and so they do. Yes, that is, but But yeah, this is not this should be understood. The universal, the one independent personality from which all other personalities come from.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the Vaishnava is trying to share in this world. So now let's go to the next verse. Tyorakshani chakshura bhut patangaha Pakshmani Vishnorahani Ubhecha Tadbru Vidrimba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva. Dio, the sphere of outer space. Akshini, the eyeballs. Chakshu, of eyes, senses. Abu, it so became. Patangaha, the sun. Pakshmani, eyelids. Vishnu, of the personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu. Ahani, day and night. Ubhe, both. Cha, and tat, his. Bru, eyebrows. Vidrimbaha, movements. Parameshti, the supreme entity, Brahma. Dishnyam, post. Apaha, Varuna, the director of water. Asya, his. Talu, palate. Rasaha, juice. Eva, certainly. Jiva, the tongue. Translation. The sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits, and the eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. So, like we have our eye pits, and then the sun is like the eye in the eye pit. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows, the Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue. So let's read Prabhupada's purport. To common sense, the description in this verse appears to be somewhat contradictory because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball and sometimes as the outer space sphere. But there is no room for common sense in the injunctions of the Shastras. We must accept the description of the Shastras and concentrate more on the form of the Virat Rupa than on common sense. Common sense is always imperfect, whereas the description in the Shastras is always perfect and complete. If there is any incongruity, it is due to our imperfection and not the Shastras. That is the method of approaching Vedic wisdom. So this goes back to the understanding of Amnaya, that if we understand that we know nothing, like Socrates was revealed that he is the wisest among men, but he knew I know nothing. This made him know that he was the wisest among men. That we wouldn't use our common understanding of reality and be like, yes, this makes sense. It has to make sense to how I measure reality. Because, as maybe you know, but maybe I'll share it because maybe we don't think about these things. If you take the human ability to see and you put a percentage based on what human technology can see, what percentage do you think the human eye can see in comparison to the greatest human technology?
It would be very below 1% probably.
Yes, you're right.
True, yeah.
The closest whole number is, what do you think? Closest whole number? 0%. 0%.
That's correct.
You can see it's practically 0%. Yeah. So if I told you, Patik, Parth here has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. But the doctor said that there's a chance we can save him. And you say, oh, tell me, what chance did he say? It's almost 0%, but there's a chance. Would you be concerned? If it was your relative or someone you love? Oh yeah, we would be very concerned. So, but we're not so concerned that wait, there's more. This is only what human technology can see with its instruments. Now, take that from our material scientists' understanding that the universe is infinite as far as they can see. The Vedas describe it's ineffable, meaning It has finite dimensions, but it's so vast that you cannot perceive it from your tiny position. So it's ineffable. But from the modern material scientists, they say infinite. So now, take any quantifiable number, billions of units of information, and put that over infinity or an ineffable number. What is the closest whole number? What's the value of that? You've done some math. Yes, zero.
It's nothing. None.
So now we can see 0% of what the human technology can see. But if we put the human technology over the total span of reality, so that's 0%, and we could see 0% of that 0%. So we could see nothing.
Yeah, it's infinite.
Yeah, we're seeing nothing. So our common sense, from our nothing perspective, how valuable is that? Not at all valuable.
No.
So this is why we must have divine revelation. Because we know nothing, but where does knowledge come from? Where did you get the knowledge, the little knowledge that we've acquired?
Just from the experience and the life we lived so far.
Some, but we mostly got knowledge from others, right?
Others.
Yeah. So
Society or people.
yeah, so others who have acquired knowledge, and then also there's 3 ways to understand knowledge, Bhagavatam reveals. The best way to acquire knowledge is through hearing from those with realization. Second best way is by seeing the experience of others. And the third best way is having to directly experience yourself. But that's the most effective way for you to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Is, I've experienced myself. But you don't have to necessarily experience it yourself. If you watch others, yeah, and I don't want to do what he did. Or even better, you hear from an authority who can guide you. So anyhow, so all knowledge must come from an independent source of knowledge. Anything you do, where did this come from? Trace it back. Well, it came from this one. It came from this one. It's dependent on this thing. This dependent on this thing. And this. But what do you come to at the end? There must be some independent source of that thing, of knowledge, of relationships, of anything in this world. It's like this. So it's all going to come back to God, because that's all there really is. So now, what is the God's wisdom? And that's what the Vedas are. They're the divine revelations of God. What is God's wisdom telling us? Okay, but my common sense tells me this, that, and the other thing. Well, your common sense is practically worth 0%, so maybe you should put your common sense to the side and, pray that you get some divine revelation. So that's what's being here. So anyhow, our understanding of reality is not very valuable. But what he's saying here is that a way that in which we can try to attribute what we can measure with our senses to the parts of the Supreme Personality. It may not work quite like that. But this is said to be helpful for our, understanding. Even, right, because even you're sitting there meditating, you're able to have vision and sight. Even in the eyes closed, when you dream, you're seeing, right? You have some sight is still there. Even when the eyes are not functioning, but there's an inner eye that's still working. And so on. But like we taste in so many things. But if we understand, these are all actually... part of the Lord's body, and that we're all experiencing reality as part and parcel of the Lord, then it's going to help us get to the next stage where, okay, how am I approaching that personality in my life? So this is here. We're going to end here because there's not much time and we should open the deities, do kirtan. You're both busy men, professionals. You have things to do in life. Breakfast is here. I also am busy, and once he's up, that's about it for me. So me and you, we're going on a trip today. Mommy just has to change your diaper. So anyhow, thank you so much for joining us. We do this Patik anytime you come. Especially if you come on a Sunday like that. I don't know what days it would be likely that you come. This is our program. Every off day from our community programs, we have like a small ashram. Usually it's bigger than this, but Krishna at least sent you today thicken the numbers a little bit. So anyhow, Hare Krishna, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. I thank you guys for your participation. We'll open the deities, we'll sing a little kirtan, and then then we go on with our day. Hare Krishna.